Hi, everybody. My name's John Lacey. Thank you for joining me today. If you are watching live, let me know in the chat where you're watching from. We are going out live on LinkedIn and YouTube today, and it's been like years since I've done a stream in exactly this fashion, and I must admit we are starting a little bit late because unfortunately, I had to get a few things ready in OBS, and it looks like I might need to make a few other live changes. So this is going to be a little bit less prepared than I would have liked, but I hope you'll forgive me. It is literally my birthday today, so if nothing else, if you can extend me some grace on that front, that would be amazing. But today I kind of wanted to talk about working with LinkedIn and some of the accessibility considerations that you might want to think about, because unfortunately, what I see is a lot of people who really they're creating a lot of inaccessible content. I'm trying to do things on the fly, which I really should have prepared earlier, but it's just been such a frantic week. So this is going to be a train wreck. I'm just going to be honest about that at this point in time. Um, but I hope you'll forgive me for that anyway. All right, so today let's talk about some of the things that we should probably keep in mind when it comes to creating content on LinkedIn. And in some ways, okay, this whole thing is going to be a disaster. I just know it. I'm just trying to do too many things at once. So I don't know. Maybe we should just wrap it up here and move on with our lives. What do you think? Is there anybody out there watching? Let me know in the next 3 seconds, and I'll decide how I want to proceed. Oh dear. Okay. All right. So this is so today we're going to talk about LinkedIn specifically. So LinkedIn is an interesting platform. It's generally geared towards business professionals, B2B, that kind of thing, occasionally B2C. But again, I just want to focus on the things that could be potential problems for you if you are actually creating some content. And again, I firmly believe that okay, we do have a comment here, and again, I haven't. I'm just, yeah. Maybe we will do this again at some point in the near future. So hello to Michelle, who's left a comment. Because there's a whole bunch of things I would like to do that I'm not really prepared to do properly right now. But again, I'm gonna do some of these in real time. So just um, so just forgive me as I put a few things together. In fact, let's make that probably not quite large enough, that one. Let's go 1000 by 400. Even that's kind of tiny, but now I can go like that, and we can see that pop up there again. So I don't know. I kind of feel like in some ways, I don't know about you, but in some ways I'm a bit of a perfectionist. And the truth is, if I wait until I'm completely ready to get started, none of these things will actually come together. So I'm gonna like just feel the blur and do it anyway today. And we're just gonna see what we can get through. And again, if we do need to revisit this at a future date, that's totally fine. We can certainly do that. I'm just gonna move that around a little bit. Okay, so let's talk about LinkedIn specifically. So I'm going to talk in general terms. I might share my screen a little bit. I might not. We'll just see how we go. But really, some of the things you want to keep in mind when it comes to LinkedIn is, first of all, alternative text. So if you don't know what alternative text is, also known as alt text, it is essentially the text that is displayed if an image can't be loaded, or if an image, or it can be read out by a screen reader. So a screen reader is a piece of technology that will actually take text from your screen and read it out for people that maybe are blind or have low vision. So that's a really important consideration. And I must admit, hello to Michelle J. Raymond. So again, I'm going to be really honest with you. I'm doing things in OBS today that I haven't done in a solid year, and I want to revisit them, and it's a bit of a train wreck at the moment, but it is my birthday, so I'm hoping you'll all extend me some grace on that front. So we're talking about accessibility, and I know it's something that's really important to me, and I know it can be a little bit confusing for a lot of people, and I kind of just I don't really expect anybody to be perfect, but I do want you to be mindful. So some of the things that we want to talk about, and hello to Paul, who's joining us as well. Great to have your company. All right, so alternative text in images. So if you actually, and I kind of want to share my screen, but I kind of don't want to share my screen because I don't really want to pick on anyone specifically today. So I'm going to talk in quite general terms, but let's actually head over. And again, I haven't really checked how elegantly this is going to work, and evidently it's not going to work. So just give me 1 second to fix that. Okay, just this one here. There we go. All right, brilliant. So this essentially is the newsletter section. So and this is similar for articles as well, but especially if you're actually adding an image here, and I'm just going to go and add one off the top. This is something I made like 3 seconds ago. Okay, so essentially here, if you hover over the image that you've added to your newsletter or your article, you do have some options to edit. And we've got two options here. One of them is for a link and one is for alternative text. So alternative text is a description of the image, but there's something you need to keep in mind, and that's if you are actually going to be linking off to something, the alternative text should be describing what you're linking to rather than the contents of the image itself. So in this case, this is really just an image that's going to describe, this particular episode of my podcast, Build a Presentation Muscle, which you can learn more about over at johnlacey.com. And we can sort of do all that good stuff over there. So it's really important that you think about what you're describing in these images, and whether how much detail is a question. So it's usually a good idea to include a description. Sometimes it is just a description to let the viewer or the listener let them know that it's just decorative. It's not really that important in the scheme of things. There's a different way we would actually do this in pure HTML, but on LinkedIn, we really just have the opportunity to add some text. So that's probably what I would do. But again, if I was sending people over to a link on my website, I would just let them know that's where they were heading with the alternative text. Another thing that can be a little bit of a trap, and again, I'm not really sure. Let's just, if we go linkedin.com/in/John Lacey. So that's just a link to my profile. So you do need to be, and Michelle J. Raymond is just saying in the comments, I always get weird about how to describe pictures of me. Yes. So, and that's interesting because some people will just write a picture of Michelle J. Raymond, and other people will be like, do I describe my hair color or what I'm wearing? And again, it kind of depends a little bit on the context of what you're doing. So it may be quite pertinent to your content that you let people know of your ethnicity, or maybe you are in a fashion space and you want to let people know what you're wearing and describe it in more detail. So, I mean, that's certainly something to keep in mind. Okay, so I guess getting back to this example though, especially like this kind of thing can't be avoided in a post, because you include the link in the post, and LinkedIn will actually shorten it for themselves. But there is a bit of a danger, like in a newsletter or an article context, that if you have this really long URL, maybe the screen reader doesn't know how to meaningfully break this up. They will just read out each character one at a time. So instead of that, it's a good idea to say, hey, we can just describe what it is. John Lacey's LinkedIn profile, for example. And then we can actually come in here and just use the link option, and then just put that URL in there. I think that's what it is from memory. In a perfect world, you'd actually look these things up, but again, I'm just making so much of this up as I go along today. So, okay, cool. The other great thing about the newsletters and the articles, and I love, this is kind of honestly my favorite feature about LinkedIn. So I actually have three separate newsletters. If you go to my profile, you can sort of learn about those. One of them is for my podcast, one of them is for the Learn live streaming newsletter, and the other one's about learning OBS Studio, which is a particular piece of live streaming software. So I like that. And the thing about that is this is the one place where you can sort of use bold and italic and you know, bulleted lists and numbered lists and quotes and things in a way that you can't do in posts. And I've got to think about how I'm going to do this for a second because I do want to share a video with you, but I've got to think about this because I really need to just be a little bit careful that I don't change this automatically. So I'm just literally going to buy myself some time. So just indulge me for a second. I'm going to grab a media source because there's a video I really want to play for you, which I think hopefully makes the point really well. Because what we do see is a lot of people using this, you know, this so-called fancy fonts, and what these things are actually they're sort of Unicode characters, and you don't really need to know what that is, but it's really important that if I just go in here. Okay. Yeah, so like I said, I apologize. This is going to be a very, very loose presentation today. Hopefully, this will be a learning experience for me and I'll be better in future weeks. But I really wanted to get back into the OBS swing of things. And there are elements of this that I really do love. And I know Michelle Haywood is saying that she gave up on OBS years ago. That's fine. You do you. I'm sort of a big fan of this particular software. But I guess at the end of the day, you know, some of the things that we want to keep in mind is that we're not just using, we're not making our content more difficult than it needs to be. So I'm going to do something really, really, I'm going to go to this slide. You won't hear me for a second, but just give me 1 second to make a change and then we'll watch the video because I think the video is actually really, really important. Hi, LinkedIn. We need to talk. It's not you, it's me. Well, actually, it is you. Well, some of you. But we do need to talk. I'm sure you meant well. I'm sure you listened to LinkedIn gurus who assured you that doing this would stop. Okay, so sorry about that. Let's just watch the video from scratch because I think this is really, really important. And if I leave you with nothing else today, which is infinitely possible, this is what I want you to understand. So, I mean, that's an example of what some people are experiencing when they encounter those kinds of posts that have the faux bold and italic Unicode characters. And it's kind of been a hill that I don't want to say it's the hill I want to die on, but it is something I'm personally quite passionate about. And it's been really kind of disappointing how often I will point this out to people and they will just tell me, I don't care. But the other thing I want you to keep in mind is that actually, in terms of this, the other thing that you really need to be mindful of is that we can't search for any of those keywords via a normal keyboard outside of holding down the Alt key on Windows and then punching in a number of digits on your number pad, which again, nobody's going to know. Nobody's going to know for entire words or passages. So please keep that in mind. So I know it's really tempting, and I know some people will tell you it's okay for titles if they're kind of skipped in their entirety. But again, my personal opinion on this is it's just deeply problematic. It's not worthwhile. It can be meaningful to actually break up the text of your posts in LinkedIn. Just make it more paragraphs. Break up add some white space. Don't do that mid sentence. That's another thing that kind of really annoys me. But it is certainly something that is out there in the wild. So just keep that in mind because it's really important. And I know there are people that are like, there are no blind people in my audience. And first of all, I don't think you're in a position to really know that, if you're being honest. So just keep that one in mind because it can be a huge problem. Okay, so all right. The other thing I kind of want to caution against, and again, I've got another great video on this, but I don't have it ready to go. So we're gonna treat today as a bit of a test run because it really isn't as well planned as I was hoping it would be. So I might even try and do this again in the near future. But when it comes to emojis, they can be really meaningful, really useful in terms of conveying information and emotion and mood. But you really don't want to get too carried away with them. Again, for people that are using screen readers like NVDA, they're going to be read out a description of each one of these. Some of these descriptions will vary from platform to platform. So if you're on iOS or Android or Windows, there are all kinds of implications here. And one of the things I see a lot is that people will use an emoji as a stand-in for an asterisk or a bullet in a list. And again, just keep in mind that every single time that you do this, the screen reader is going to read out whatever that symbol represents. And to be honest, it doesn't take very much for that message to become incredibly confusing. So just keep that in mind. And there we go. Michelle Haywood is saying there are blind and deaf or hard of hearing people in her audience. So that's really important to keep in mind. And, I can't say this enough. And I kind of feel rather passionately about this. And I probably am running out of ways of describing this. But I just think it's the right thing to do, first of all. But even if you're not moved by that as a motivation, make sure you're not damaging your brand because that can be a really easy thing to do when you start playing with these so-called fancy font generators. Entire words from your tagline or your description can be missing. And we saw in that video that it quickly became almost offensive what was being read out by the screen reader. So please keep that in mind. I should say too, if you are interested, and I know this is something that not everyone will have had experience with this, and I guess in some ways, like I'm not here to point the finger or blame anybody. I just want you to be aware. So if you really do want to get some more experience with this kind of thing, if you go to nvaccess.org/download, you can actually download this NVDA screen reader and actually just apply it to your own content, whether that's on LinkedIn, whether that's elsewhere. There is a donate option, but you can skip to donate that at that time. And essentially when that's open and running, you will hear what people using that software will experience. So again, that can be quite confronting. And I used to teach web design and development students to use this software. And when you first start, there's a very robotic voice reading everything out. It can be very disorientating, but again, I think we just need to be mindful of the things that are out there in the world. Okay. Another example of something you might want to keep in mind is when you are sharing video content, and I love video content, it's a really big pillar of my little part of the universe. It's important to include captions where available. And I know this isn't available everywhere. And right now on LinkedIn, there's a very good chance that the automated captions are happening via the software if you've got that turned on. They may or may not be capturing everything I say properly or well, but they're probably an improvement on having nothing at all. But certainly if you're posting a standalone video, you have the option to actually go in and add some captions, which you may have created outside of LinkedIn, or you can use their automated service. But if you do use their automated service, go back in and check those captions, because none of these things are perfect. And again, in a lot of ways, the thing we want to avoid is just getting lost in translation. So keep that in mind. I'm just going to see if I've got an example I can show you really, really quickly. I may not, in which case this is probably not a great opportunity, but let's, in fact, not that one. Let's try one of these. Okay. So, this is essentially the opportunity to upload some media. I've got this video that we watched just a second ago. If you find this CC captions option at the bottom of the screen there, you have these options. So you can actually add the auto captions, and that's better than nothing. That's a good starting point. But you do also have this option to review the captions before viewers can see them. And again, I would probably encourage you to use that. As a general rule, what I like to do is I actually create my captions outside of LinkedIn. So I use a tool called HappyScribe. It sort of takes an initial go at guessing what I said through machine learning and all that good stuff. I can go through with that. I can just double check it, and then I can upload an SRT file there as well. So again, just be mindful. Again, nothing needs to be perfect, but just do what you can to sort of bridge the gaps in potential understanding, and I guess misunderstanding more than anything. Another good thing that it's worth doing, but again, I was surprised because I did some testing earlier before we came live. It's not as big a deal as I thought it was, but essentially when it comes to hashtags, especially if you've got creator mode on, LinkedIn will ask you to nominate a few hashtags about the things that you talk about. If they're just a single standalone word, that's great. But if they're multiple words, the advice generally is to actually capitalize the first letter of each of those words, just to make it a little bit obvious, where each word starts. I was actually quite pleasantly surprised that even in my testing with the NVDA screen reader, a lot of even in lowercase, it was able to sort of differentiate between the words. So that may not be as big a deal as I thought it was. But again, I don't think it hurts if you're just doing a post, just to hit the shift key when you press those characters. Okay, so those are a few of the things that I wanted to sort of point out today. Again, I really do love the articles, the newsletter features in LinkedIn. That is the one place where you do have a lot of control if you do want to do things with bold text and links and different heading styles, and think about the structure of the content that you're producing. You've also got the ability to actually embed content. So you can grab things from YouTube, you can grab things from Spotify, podcasts, that kind of thing, and actually embed them into your articles as well. So that's really, really quite useful. I guess that's really all I wanted to share with you this week. I'm going to try and get in the habit of doing more solo streams through OBS, because honestly, I've been missing it for a really long time, and I've got a shiny new computer, and I'm really eager to put it through its paces. But again, thank you for those of you who have joined me today. Like I said, and I keep bringing it up because I'm really not subtle, but today is literally my birthday here in Australia in my time zone. So I just wanted to come online and share a little bit about something I was passionate about. So take care, everybody. Again, we'll probably have slightly more sophisticated versions of this in the future, but I really appreciate your company today, and I'll talk to you again soon.